Great. All right. Good morning, all. So the first thing on our, well, let me give you guys our agenda again. A sec. There's the agenda for anybody that wants to see. So the first thing was going over if anyone had any additional comments or thoughts on the presentation that Fuss and O'Neill did last time. So as a reminder, this is what we went through. They talked about their scope, their status, different considerations, what it would look like, concept plans, and then we talked a lot about portage and what the portage might look like, and Kevin made the brilliant, or Kate, I forget, one of you made the brilliant observation that we're really close to the falls, to the dam here.
Kevin, yeah.
And at least FERC says that we should be about 300 feet away for safety considerations, so 300 feet is pretty far and puts us in a place where I don't know if we can get to, and so there's this thought of like, what is the maximum distance that we can get to, that we have potential control over that parcel? Yeah.
Portage meaning take out and walk around.
The takeout I think is okay. I mean, sorry, the put in is okay, but the takeout above Slater is the challenge. So putting back in under Main Street, it doesn't really matter how close you are.
Okay.
But taking out above a dam, it gets scarier and scarier the closer you get because you start to get pulled over.
Where are you taking out now for your paddles? Your lower river paddles?
We climb over the wall at Slater Mill on River Right. Like literally climb.
Yeah. It's not ideal.
Muck in the mud.
Yeah, we try and get a big rock and then we hork ourselves up.
It's great for the boats.
Well, I'm only thinking that I hate to put the portage on hold. I mean, it's a big part of this.
How much money would be saved if the portage is?
A lot.
Just cause I'm thinking. That portage and the portage that was proposed during that meeting after Main Street was also, I think, not really enjoyed by a vast majority of the group due to the slopes and the not. Festival Pier is how far away from that portage?
Oh gosh, it's super close.
So if that shaves off a significant, if one portage is impossible because in the current scope of the project, it's not possible on the northern side of the river above Slater Mill. That's just not a.
It is, yeah, a
I'm
little less
thinking,
than a mile. Yeah, I don't think.
I'm thinking of our primary objective, funding and cost in the year 2025. And it may be that there's a future for portage, but not in 2025. But is there some potential to improve, take out and put in above Slater Mill?
I feel like River Right with behind City Hall.
Yeah.
If it wouldn't be in the Park Service boundary, I wouldn't guess, but further up where they have the bike path there. That runs behind Pawtucket City Hall.
Yeah.
If they can take down a part of that wall and create some type of slope. There's also the emergency boat launch on the opposite side of the bridge that runs over the river. There is already a boat launch there, it's just used for emergency only right now.
So the portage is definitely something that should be considered in this way.
Yes,
Oh,
and there's no
sure.
reason not to there.
Because that is, you showed me treacherous.
Yeah,
Okay,
but I think that there are ways to improve the existing locations of Portage at Elizabeth Webbing.
right. Just the small stretch between, Valley Falls and above Slater Mill Dam is worth fighting for. I think. It's not easy, but I think it's something worth fighting. What is the portage like around Valley Falls? How far down do you have to go?
That one's the one, we drove that, didn't we?
Yeah, we just skip it.
I mean, you take out right there at the dock. And you've got your kayak. Or your canoe.
So we take out, obviously, with Central Falls Landing. And that's easy enough, because that actually has a place. And then they're doing all of this renovation at Valley Falls Park, Heritage
Right,
Park, the town is.
exactly.
So we had requested as part of that planning process, and John Roslin was a big piece of that. When they were doing that planning, we participated and said, we really want you to think about Portage and a way to get back in the river as part of this.
Yeah.
And
Crosswalk. Traffic lights.
I mean, we didn't even talk about that. We're just saying, like, literally, as you restore this area, please think about having a ramp or something to get into the river again.
That's worth fighting for.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I don't know the status on what they're doing or if they have funding or anything.
Eric just had put something in the chat.
Oh,
seems
sorry.
very relevant.
Let me get back to chat. Chat. Senator Whitehouse is adamant that fish passage around Main Street and Slater be tied to paddle recreation, Portage connectivity, Blackstone and Bay.
Say that again.
Senator Whitehouse is really committed and wants Portage at Main Street and Slater as part of connectivity from the Blackstone to the Narragansett Bay.
I have always reported to our congressional delegation that this is tied together because that is what the senator told me in my first call when I took the job, that any fish passage should be tied in with Portage. He is a huge paddle recreation advocate, and this is what he wants to see. But you might also go back to him and say, hey, we'd love to do this, but we need more money.
I mean, money is one thing, but control over parcel is another. I mean, if you do it on River Left, so I don't know the exact location, but would you say it's about here, what they were proposing?
Yes.
That's 100 feet, which is a third of what FERC recommends. And for reference, when we took out at about 160 feet, 170 feet.
In low flow.
And it was low flow, for sure. So, but if you look at 300 feet, you're looking at here.
So still within a parcel that the city controls through the redevelopment authority
Currently.
But is also within their scope of the redevelopment plans.
Correct.
But also, if the redevelopment agency's on board, it can be done. You can sell Portage there as an extra $200 for each person that lives near it, because great, like you have a way to get onto the river.
And they had proposed that this be a restaurant, is that?
Yeah, I've heard that a few times.
Because I think if you're in this parking lot here, you're in sort of an okay area. But which leads us to the challenge of PRA being a part of, in the city, both being a really active participant in this process.
Right, exactly.
Just
And that's
for
where the senator might be able to help once again.
Say that again, Eric?
And that's where the senator might be able to help once again.
True, yeah, that's a really good point.
Reminding me of the resilient riverfront redevelopment that's going on in Westerly. because they have business owners along the Pawcatuck River that are buying into not just green infrastructure on their properties, but also public access to the river. And that might be a project to reference and try to, talk to the Southern Rhode Island Conservation District, because they've been the ones that have been interfacing with those business owners about easements on their properties and stuff. I'm not sure if it'll be useful, because I think PRA is like a different animal, but might be helpful.
I don't think we've eliminated paddling from the site. I think we're saying portage can take out down to the put in as an engineering fee, as a construction fee, as a cost, as an expense, should be evaluated. I mean, I'd love to see portage there, and it's like we're going halfway there because of the work on the vertical slot fishway, going underneath the street. I mean, you could conceivably, if it does have engineering potential, construction potential, walk unobstructed from the takeout down below. No traffic crossing or cars or anything else.
I mean, that's not the end of the world. If you have to cross a street, it's a heavily developed area.
Right.
It's gonna be much less expensive that way. I would say save your money, put in a crosswalk, and let's say, flashing, press the button kind of thing.
Alright.
Put up signs for portage. I don't think it's worth the cost to say, like, let's create as part of the fish passage and underground tunnel where kayakers can go through. This is not gonna be the most used portage on
Yeah.
the river, because it's.
Would it be helpful to look at the parcel ownership plan?
I think we know that one. You can check if you want.
That one is PRA, yeah, because that's
I-
part of their,
All the way down.
Yeah, it was part of the RFP for redevelopment.
yeah, that hillside is
So what we're saying is from the takeout to the put in
Yeah,
below,
So you got
it's
a
all
steep up down
PRA.
and a steep down.
from the, yes, yep. Which is fine, I think, for most of it, in theory. But because they've said, okay, we're not gonna develop that parcel where Fish Passage goes, but they are gonna develop the parcel where that portage would go. And I think that we didn't think about that early on enough of what is 300 feet from the dam to tell them. Also, we need an easement and access here.
Right.
And sorry, just for a second, I missed your comment appropriately, Darcy. What was
It's
the
okay.
river?
It's the Pawcatuck River, so
Pawcatuck,
it's
and-
town of Westerly. And it's the Southern Rhode Island Conservation District is the group that's been facilitating all of those property owner easements for access as well as green infrastructure.
Gina, for
Yeah, Gina.
Can you scroll up a little bit, Stephanie, on that map towards where the bridge is? When you're not taking notes.
Alright, yeah, I have it paused right now, switching back and forth. Sorry, where do you wanna go? Up river?
Up, yeah. Little bit more. There we go. So that bridge over Exchange Street on River Right, where those trees are, that is already
Oh, this part?
to the north of it. That right there, where that little cluster of trees on the river, yeah. There is already a boat launch there. That's where the fire department uses for emergency
Oh, right.
purposes. So that's probably 2,000 feet.
That's a good point.
So as someone that has had to carry kayaks across through Woonsocket, that really sucked. I definitely hear that. But how much you're buying when we don't have a safe way of doing it, especially when the Park Service owns that dam, having a portage that's 100 feet up, I can only see the headlines of person dies trying to do portage over a national park service owned dam.
And I assume that it wouldn't be, it's not an option for NPS to put something in along this bank. I mean, I know it's really steep and there's a wall there, so obviously it would be very different, but
Eric,
I think it might be an option, but can you get to 300 feet before the end of our property line?
and it might make it less money too if it's just on the city line, so the city can say, yeah, we stepped up.
Yeah.
We're helping, it's on our property, we blew this little piece of wall. Cause the national park boundary ends at Leather Ave. So if they go up just a little bit north and they blow a piece of theirs, there's also the bikeway that they just threw a bunch of money in that's right on that.
Mm.
So they can tie in bikeway with.
It could be
river
like
access.
fishing access, Sand River access.
And I think that's also city owned and not PRA owned.
So,
this one,
so you
Yes.
take out
City Hall,
on
Yeah.
that side,
River Right.
Go
then
right
what do
down
you
Leather
do?
Ave.
You take out on River Right, then what do you do to get down below?
If you're still
Walk through
doing
the
that
park.
lower portage, you just
Cross
go off Roosevelt, cross the bridge, cross the street, and you have that portage right after Main Street 10.
So you're basically walking through a national park though, you're not like walking on the road.
Yeah, with sidewalks and stuff.
Yeah, so this is much safer than walking like along Roosevelt or something. If you're staying within the park boundary.
Track the walk, where the walk is gonna be,
So the only part is you can't walk right here, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
mill's blocked into there.
So you have to go around the middle.
Or you
so
can
you
just go on
would take
Roosevelt, cause
out-
they just built that as a bikeway too, that is
Yeah.
a legal
The bikeway.
bikeway.
So you would take out somewhere here. You go through the parking area. You can go on Roosevelt Bikeway, or if I were doing it, I would just cut through here. Carry your kayaks through here. Walk down.
And you've got steps.
Yeah,
There are
The bike
steps.
path avoid steps.
steps. I mean, steps aren't really,
sidewalk.
yeah,
overlay.
if you have wheels, you can go around, but if you don't, then you can carry them up. And then you're going across Main Street and then to wherever it is. Which is still height for sure.
I
But
mean, it's probably the with the slope too of where the proposed portage is.
here,
Yeah, I mean, it's probably 500 feet more that you're walking, but you're also not walking up that massive slope.
Yeah.
oh, that's right here.
Yeah.
And you're not having to cross another street, Exchange Street, if you were to pull out at the city's existing access point.
Yeah, I mean, when you're carrying a kayak, this doesn't seem like much distance, but yeah,
It
you're
is
you're doubling
long.
your,
Yeah.
more than doubling your distance. If you were to take out there, so. So is that our new sort of preferred thing, is talk to the Pawtucket City Hall and say, how do we create an access point on their property here instead? Because we don't believe that we can safely do it within the existing space available.
I think it's definitely worth talking to them about. And then just thinking about like as folks that have portaged here, it's like,
Right.
I want a portage on River Right, I don't wanna like climb up. And then thinking about, like, I mentioned it at last month's meeting, but clearing a bunch of trees that are right on the river, potential for erosion, disturbed soil. I just feel like it's already disturbed on that side of the river and there's an opportunity to showcase the river there for people who are riding bikes, or you can park and then go fishing. I just think it would really add to what's already there.
Just stopping.
So I like
screens and show you. Yeah,
On the portage elevator downstream.
yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
like a nice little like
Just leave
get
the
in,
grates off the fish
wheel
passage.
yourself down.
So
there you go.
This is, this is what portage looks like. So I'm sitting in a kayak in the river and looking up, and obviously super low flow here.
Where's
So
that?
River Right, there's Superman, this
Okay.
is a little piece of the Slater,
I think that's
That's
a
the
shed,
shed.
yeah.
the shed. So
But yeah, if you go,
we just kind of climb up like this, and that one was hard actually, because it's so steep, you had to like put your boat sideways, parallel the bank, and then like kind of jump your way and scramble.
You also
And
have
then you're-
water intake right there because you have the water wheel, so like that's extra.
And that'll be more in the future.
Yes, when it's actually running, that, we had the gate closed, I think.
Yeah, but then you're like, doing this, you can see some people have their boats here, and some are like popping over the bank,
Yeah,
so
that's good.
it's a lot. It's a lot. And then you're like, I think I have
Really
some
not accessible.
really unflattering photos of us doing that I don't need to share. So,
So the only infrastructure above Main Street is gonna be the takeout location.
the only infrastructure above Main Street.
Right.
What?
Is gonna be the takeout.
Other than the fish passage.
Well, that's,
Yeah,
I'm separating. the
gotcha,
two.
gotcha.
I'm thinking of, systematically getting through to design and permitting.
Yeah.
We've made a change.
Well, we would still need, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. So the only portage infrastructure required would all be below Main Street, is the opposite way of saying.
Well, no, you need this takeout. And the takeout could be just a
Well,
launch area.
There's no more like
It's kind of low.
observation building or anything like that.
Well, I mean, that was cut, I think, a
That
long
was,
time ago.
that's out.
So yeah, the only
Possible.
infrastructure currently being proposed other than the fish passage itself above Main Street is that one bit of portage.
But you're looking at probably some work on bank stabilization. I hate to think of putting a float there. Maintaining that, I don't know who would do that.
I always think about the Tuxet River, right at, downstream of the Pontiac Dam.
Right.
That one's, there are some dedicated volunteers, but it's pretty low maintenance, there's no float there, it's granite curb, nice,
Right.
long, shallow to get down to the river.
But we're going after a wetland permit.
Mhm.
And so we're gonna need to know to what degree, this river right piece of paddling infrastructure is
So if you look at
gonna be developed.
this right here, this is the little like pavilion. That's this little pavilion,
Well, I'm looking more at
so,
the image that you showed me with the grade wall and the
well,
grade.
right, so I'm
You
just.
said that's where it probably would go.
The grade really starts in the boundary of the national park, so you can see that the river wall is quite straight and steep.
So down here is where you saw that picture. This, a little bit above, is where we were proposing potential, or sorry, up
Okay.
here is where we were proposing
So
potential
why don't we
takeout.
put it where that was? Where
Because
that-
you're still 150 feet away.
Oh, okay, right, the distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get,
And then, so I don't have a picture in this exact spot.
Yeah.
But I have a picture looking right here.
Yeah.
So a little bit above, so this is the pavilion, keep that in your mind, this is the pavilion. So it's a very big wall that's currently right there still.
Yeah.
So, and then does it turn here? Kevin?
Yeah.
Is that what
Yeah.
happens?
Yeah,
meanders.
So it would be right around there that we would propose, but I don't know how you do that. But again,
Go outside and take a picture real quick.
what you were
My pleasure.
proposing,
My pleasure.
but what you were proposing is already a steep grade. And what, especially at the put-in underneath Main Street, there is a big wall right there too.
Yeah.
And whether you're going in or out of the river is basically the same thing, you're creating the same infrastructure, so whatever they proposed that worked with, okay, let's cut a hole in the wall and create steps and that's allowed to flood, that same premise would work here, I assume.
Yeah, it's a trade, river left to river right. There was proposed take out river left. Now it's gonna be on river right.
I mean, if it worked in an ideal world and we had control over that parcel, that would be better,
Who
because
owns
it's
the parcel
shorter
now?
and, well,
Who owns the parcel now?
the original parcel, PRA,
No, the river right parcel, the
City of Pawtucket.
city of Blackstone.
So the original, what we proposed, if we could get 300 feet away with the PRA parcel that they're going to redevelop into a restaurant.
Yeah.
That would be more ideal because it's a shorter distance. However, so there's one option of, do we pursue this? Do we talk to Senator Whitehouse? Get pressure on PRA, get them to work with us? Is that something that we wanna pursue? Or do we say, okay, let's look at all our alternative, which is also challenging a little bit further, but might be more doable. It's on City of Pawtucket property.
Yeah,
I remember right. Those are our sort of,
those are the options.
Especially with PRA, they're waiting on us to get money to create that, the city, it's like, yeah, we make an agreement with
did I
that,
not?
that's just gonna happen.
I'm sorry, did you guys see this picture? Did I not share it?
Yep, you shared
I
it.
did, okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I think I pressed stop again at some point.
Speaking of money, have we heard on the grant from Noah? Any idea when it's gonna
Or if, no,
or if,
nothing to say that it won't, but, I have.
So,
Yeah, I mean, after this, since we're going up to Central Falls anyway, if we want to have a little working lunch there and just look at the chances it's on the way to Central Falls.
that might be a good idea.
That's my plan anyway, I have to get the kayak set. And the Eric, I'm not leaving you behind either.
Yeah, and then maybe like take some pictures along the edge to figure out, like, right, where does it make sense? Where is it relatively less steep, or less high, or, and still look 300 feet?
How about, the next court meeting, we get Fussin O'Neill in.
that's the walk and talk.
Where is it?
Oh, the one before? Not the CAC, the like internal one?
July something on a Thursday.
Thursday, July 17th is our walk and talk. Are you proposing the Zoom meeting the week before, internal one? Or do you
Walk and
guys?
talk with the court team? Or the advisory team?
Wait,
The workshop.
I was wondering which meeting you were proposing, the walk and talk or the
We
virtual?
have a monthly court team meeting.
Yep.
And we have one scheduled in July.
Mhm.
And I think maybe it's appropriate to bring in Fussin O'Neill and say, look, we got some decisions to make here. There's two options. And right now, you're tasked with river left. We want to make some provisions to see if river right is an option, and this is what we have in mind, because they have to get this ready for the permit that they're gonna get from wetlands.
I mean, I don't know if we're ready to make that decision until Fussin O'Neill start engineering or not, though. I feel like we or whomever has to make that decision of what our preference is first, right? Because if our preference is, never mind, we wanna do the original one but further up, that's
Okay.
that's different.
Alright.
So
All right, hold on.
I think that we should go see it in person and then think of it more.
But I
But then
agree,
we
we
can
should
follow.
definitely look at Fussin O'Neill,
Yeah.
because the
Well,
the permit needs to
I
show
wanna get
exactly where
this
the work's
done.
gonna
I
go.
want to get all of this done by the end of the year,
Yeah,
and, you know, there's.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't
That's-
do it, I'm just saying give us like another week to go look at it, think about it, maybe we go in person, we're like, never mind, we're like, oh, yes, so. But we'll follow up on
that'd
that.
be helpful.
Well,
Okay, so to do is site visit at City Hall. And think which site, river right, river left is preference for takeout. And follow up with Jan on.
I defer to the experience and information that people have in going through this for years. But, you know, your advice and preference is the direction we should go.
Okay.
And there is a bigger question, Eric. You raise it, it's important. Is Portage here worth fighting for? And I know Senator Whitehouse has been talking to you about this. This was important to him. It's my understanding that DEM hasn't been working with Senator Whitehouse on this. They've been working with Senator Reed. So I don't know. I mean, if taking Portage and putting a hold on it is a non-starter, and you firmly feel that it's a non-starter because of the relationship you have with Senator Whitehouse, fine, we'll go with it. But if there's any opportunity to say, right now, this may be an unachievable goal, and we want to just fall back to fish passage.
Well, I would say the easiest way to do this is invite the senator to walk the site. When I meet with him in DC, he says, I know I am the junior senator from Rhode Island, but Senator Reed has given me the lead on water issues, oceans and rivers.
Okay.
That's why I'm, adamant about water recreation. That's been the drum he beats with us at the federal government. And quite frankly, I don't answer to DEM. I don't answer to the governor or anybody else except the congressional delegation. So they, and specifically he in this instance, are my number one priority. So, I would say you should make the argument in person and give him all the information and see where it goes from there. But it could very well be that he could insist that this happens on, federal property. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Seems to be a reasonable guy, but he is very passionate about water recreation. So I would reach out to NISA and see if you can set up a meeting and have the senator come for that visit in July if he's around.
Yeah.
Or make a special visit for him.
So Caitlin, is this a role for DEM government relations specialists to?
We have a really good relationship with him too. We have a really good relationship. I feel like that's more close to the.
Well, this is a DEM project in collaboration with the partners. And I'm just saying, if you feel that you want to take the lead or think DEM should take the lead, I don't know.
I'm sorry to be like a step behind, but can you just paraphrase what we were asking of the senator? So we want to put a pause on the Portage piece of the project? Is that?
I think it's, hey, this is what's going on with Portage here. We realize that we maybe don't have the ability to put Portage where we originally intended, which is with the Fish Passage project. We either have an option of putting it upriver on river left, but we don't have the buy-in of PRA, and so that's a consideration. Is this important to you that it occurs there? Or would it be better, do you think, it happens on river right with city protected property? Or we don't know how to figure this out yet, it goes on pause. And so if we give him those three options of this is what we're considering and have him say, absolutely not, it's not going on pause, make it happen, or as Eric said, like, we really want this to happen on federal government property, put it at Slater Mill, or, but I think just providing an overview of this is the situation right now, we would love to specific ask, invite you to come to this walk and talk meeting, or please tell us when you're available that we can have a chat with you on site.
I mean, in my mind, the option of like putting it on pause, and to Eric's point, I don't think that's the way we want to frame this at all. I think we need to frame this like this project will have portage and public river access. We're trying to figure out how that's going to be done. Senator Whitehouse is not going to be the decision maker on that, obviously.
I think what is important to communicate to the congressional delegation is that we're doing everything we can to make it work. It might not look like the original plan, but I think it's like, as you said, it's DEM's project, it's DEM's job to figure out an option that is safe, abides by the FERC guidelines or as close to as we can, and that the advisory committee agrees is the best option. So I guess I'm not hearing, like, I don't think it's a question for Senator Whitehouse, like, what do you want us to do? Like, we have to figure that out, and then unless it's like we need his assistance in advocating for a certain option, I mean.
Right.
But he's not gonna pressure the city.
Right, well,
I mean, he doesn't have, like, they are very reluctant to interfere in those kinds of decisions, right? I mean, even though, they don't really have authority to do that, right? So I think we have to think about, like, yes, I think it's a conversation for DEM to have with the senator's office. And I think it's probably good, I'm not saying, I mean, we wanna take what is being said here, but I think the flow of information is important. So it's probably better that it come from us, because if they have questions, they're gonna call our legislative liaison, Ryan. So that's just my take. I feel like there needs to be a couple more conversations maybe before. With City of Pawtucket. With City of
And
Pawtucket, because
TRA.
we don't even know, like, we don't know what their stance is gonna be, as if we're suggesting this.
can we zoom out and say, in terms of timing, make that ask sooner rather than later of, we'd love to discuss Portage with you, can you please come to this walk and talk because it's happening in 4 weeks? Are you available? And if not, when might be a good time? But don't give all the details, and then we can follow up after with more details, just to get it on his calendar.
I guess I'm asking, what is the point of the discussion? What are we asking him
So
for?
we know that Senator Whitehouse is passionate about river access,
Yeah,
and as we are making decisions around river access with a federal property, it's worth keeping him in the loop, I think. That's the sort of zoom out.
okay.
The original question was, can we leave the Portage out? That's what I was responding to. Sounds like nobody wants to leave the Portage out.
Yeah.
So I think we're in a much better position, but if you were trying to leave the Portage out as part of the overall project, that's where you'd have the problem.
I guess, yeah, for me, that was kind of like, that would be a red flag, because it sounds, if it has to be sequenced, or if we have to do more fundraising for it, like, that's a separate issue, but like, I don't think we wanna start talking about, like, we are not gonna go forward with this part of the project, even if it's just for right now. I mean, I think that's what we wanna present to the congressional delegation. I mean, especially as we're like competing for federal funding, it's like, that's gotta be in there, and we'll make it work. It's like we are, and so yes, like, I think if he's available, like, it would be great to talk to him, but I would hope that by then we're gonna have a bit better idea of what our
Yeah.
options are.
Yeah.
And it would be great if we can concretely say, in the original conceptual plan, here's where it was, but we have really worked hard as a group to figure this out, and what is safe and what's doable. And this is not the best location, we are now gonna do it here. I honestly can't imagine that Senator Whitehouse is gonna have a huge issue, as long as, it's like,
It happens.
yeah, and he's trusting us to manage the projects.
And I think Portage on the other side would be totally fine, as long as it's really clearly marked where to
Okay.
go once you get out.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is great, like, this is the kind of feedback we need from this group, because you guys are closest to what goes on down there, and you've actually like experienced these issues, right? So I think that's fine. I guess the question is, I just wasn't clear, it's like, are we saying that if we're changing the location, we are short of resources to support that design? Is that what you're saying, John?
Yeah, I mean, as far as working with the consultant design contractor, they have to know
Right,
that we changed our mind.
yes,
And that this is, I guess, Plan B. And that starts them thinking about how to present it on site plans.
Yeah.
How to present it on presentations, and you saw the presentation they did for Portage the last time we met. Well, that's changed now. Not a lot, but enough that they have to
It'll be
know.
extra work
Yeah,
to
they
incorporate.
have to know that this is what the goal is.
Was my impression after our last meeting that nobody agreed, everybody agreed that the put in to get around the dam was in the wrong spot.
Yeah, I don't feel like the decision definitely wasn't changed of there needs to be safe portage, it was just that it was pointed out that what they proposed is not safe portage.
Yeah.
So I feel like in the same, I don't know, contracting on your side, I know it on the federal side. When you say safe portage and they don't provide safe portage, any additional expenses should be, no, we said safe portage and you didn't come through with that.
Right, to some degree, it's an iterative process and they should be responding to feedback, but I guess, yeah, there needs to be a discussion about how far along the design is now and if it would take some kind of change order or additional funding in the contract to make the change.
Yeah, and again, I mean, if they're under contract to deliver to you, some renderings that identify what this is gonna look like. Well, we wanna make sure the portage is on the right side of the river.
Right. If we're showing it to the public.
We're showing, right, where it's gonna be.
Right.
And that's why I say that, we need to message clearly to, design engineers, the change. And I think what I'm hearing here, we've almost made a decision that we have to go river right.
Or
No,
that it just needs to
no,
go
I think that's the
upstream.
thing, it
Yeah.
has to go upstream, whether it's river right or river left. And that I think is the consideration still, we have to
Alright.
go look at it on site and
Right.
determine which makes sense, what seems more
Okay.
feasible.
Alright.
Yeah.
And also what's more feasible in terms of the terrain, but what's more feasible also in terms of the partnership,
Okay, so pending guidance and
Both.
instruction
Right.
from the committee
yeah.
and their review and their experience
We
with
will go
doing
there
this.
directly after this with a few of us at least, to look at it.
And, this is based on experience, it's based on having done this before and knowing the difficulties and what needs to be done. Then we make the shift.
And then, of course, there needs to be and we're already planning a subsequent conversation with PRA and the city about what is needed.
So let's leave
We are, I mean,
Yeah. let's leave White House out of it right now. I'd like to show them a rendering of what this is gonna look like. And a fee schedule, what it's gonna cost.
Okay. I just have a fear that things push on a really long time, and I think whenever he gets an update, he would be happy, but I know that whenever, Eric chats with him or we chat with him, he's always sort of like, what is going on? So, it doesn't,
It's
it's a
my,
balance of
right,
just like, an FYI, we're having this meeting, if you were around in the area in the district, we'd love for you to attend. But, to give you an overview of what we're working on, but we don't have to. We
it's
can-
my experience when DEM requests, to discuss something with Senator Whitehouse, his staff's gonna show up, not him.
yeah,
Usually, yeah,
Now, the Park Service is different. I mean, that's federal land, and that's more related to his quote domain. And I think that, once we go through this process, that the Park Service is gonna be instrumental in working with him on this.
for sure, I just think, he likes updates, so. if
so
we were to invite him,
I would
prefer-
invite Nisa to
Yeah,
that
exactly,
workshop,
Right.
absolutely, that's a great thing for staffers to come to.
Yeah. is that a good in between? I didn't expect him to come, I expected him to come.
Right,
But-
yeah. Just present it as an open invitation.
Yeah.
And just my concern initially was just like, we're not asking the senator to like
No,
choose an alternative for us, right? Like,
No.
we don't wanna, we kind of need to present a united front and say, here's where we are,
Yeah.
not like, what do you think we should do?
I mean, I think that I was just saying that in terms of, we might. I don't know, I don't know if PRA is maneuverable, convincible of anything anyway. That was sort of like, if we did need to
We
move it
needed
up,
to like
if we
exert
were on
pressure.
PRA land and we're not getting anywhere, like,
I see.
is that an opportunity of like, this is maybe the better option, but, cause I think the biggest hurdle of doing that, if we had the same control over both parcels, I would probably choose river left, closer to shorter
It
portage.
makes sense.
Yeah.
It
But
falls in
I
line.
have very little faith in that partnership being terribly successful. And so it makes me hesitant and then say, well, maybe we have better success doing river right further up. It's a longer portage, but you know, we're going through a national park.
In 5 years, there may be a large apartment building with a seawall on River Left. You don't know what direction it's going.
So that's sort of the, like, if we presented it as, we're considering this, but we have some challenges. If you feel like that might be a challenge that you would want to tackle and think it's important to help us do this, we'd love your support. If you don't think that that is like, oh no, it's, you know, we'll just do the other one, we're all on the same page. The hard part is like, there's this like formal relationship, right? And then there's the sort of informal like side conversation relationship. And
Yeah.
I feel like DEM is a very formal relationship and we're more of like a side conversation.
Yeah, I just want to be reasonable about, we haven't outright asked anything of PRA in this, so we need to like, we need to confirm that this is not an option.
To be fair, we have. We've said, can you please come to our meetings? Can you please participate in this conversation? We're always asking, we've asked for updates, they've watched these meetings before and come and said, oh, you said something that was untrue, and we said, thank you for coming and having this conversation with us. So to be fair, I don't think they're holding up their end of the deal of just being in a conversation.
Right, understood, but
We haven't said, can we put portage here?
right, so I think we need to confirm that the answer is no, right? And
Can we have, did we even get an answer? Can we have a conversation?
well, I mean, I think that's part of what this meeting with Fussin O'Neill and DEM, the city is gonna be about.
Are they coming? Yeah, right? Are they showing up?
To,
Or walk and talk?
I don't know, Matt, if that's been part of the
I don't think
conversation.
there's been any communication from them yet. I
So,
think we've been reaching out.
right, so the latest is like Jason had a contact through our chief of staff.
Right.
And just, there was no response.
Yeah.
So, I mean, eventually they're gonna have to meet with us because we're asking for access and that. So yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought, but like,
We don't want Senator Whitehouse to exert pressure on something that we haven't.
I honestly
We
don't,
haven't gone through the process ourselves.
and I don't think he will.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my take on
Yeah.
how they operate, I mean, which is totally understandable. But like, I think we need to exhaust.
Yeah.
We need to know that it's not an option and have a pretty good reason for pressing that if that's the way we wanna go, but if there's an alternative, then maybe it's just that we need to look at an alternative. So, but totally, yes, like, let's keep it, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, like, let's keep Senator Whitehouse, if he feels very strongly about it, maybe there is something that can be done, but,
I know when we've like done our panel and stuff, if he doesn't find out the day I decide, which speaking of which, I haven't told him yet, so I have to do that. He just sometimes feels like, come on, this is my thing, why aren't you keeping me posted?
Yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah.
oh, I'm so sorry.
no, that's
I
a
just
good,
forgot
it's a
to-"
good point. So yes to including them, I think they should be invited to workshop, you know. But there, I think we also have, and by we, I mean, mostly DEM has work to do to like figure out what our options are with the city.
Have we been through the mortgage conversation?
Can we just like, and just for my, like, we are continuing to say that like portage is gonna happen here, I think is that like,
Yeah, I wouldn't want to take it.
Okay.
Like you said, it
It's
might
part
be
of the
different-
design, it's
It
gonna be
might
part
be
of
part
the
of the
design.
timeline, but
yes, okay.
we just need to go do a site visit, think about what we might. And then pursue that. Pending. Area potential work. And this like bucket potential work. Are there any updates that we want to share about Elizabeth Webbing, Hydro, or Manville Hydro?
I saw that one drop still moving forward.
John, anything else that you wanted to add about Manville Hydro? I know the town of Cumberland had signed a thing that said, we do not want to have hydro here, basically, we want this to be a public park. New England Hydro sort of balked and saw it more of as a negative hydro, whereas the town saw it more as like, no, we really are just supporting public access and parks. So there's that consideration. I think that New England Hydro is also going to be attending the water chestnut poll that we're about to have for this, so. Conversation. Any other updates for what's going on with the redevelopment? Any updates to any other funding awards?
I don't know, Darcy, is it okay to talk about what was voted on this year, meeting for?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Well, so NDEP is gonna be submitting a budget request to EPA for our fiscal year 25 funding, which starts October 1st. And our committee on Thursday approved 2 subawards, one of which is for DEM to continue supporting Matt's position, and one of which is for the collaborative to continue supporting this group. So that's all good news, as you know, EPA has that money in-house. We haven't heard any reason that it won't come through as usual, so.
Thank you.
Yes.
And then the other update, Kayla, can I hand this to you for Fish Parade for a second?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we had our fish parade on May 18th. And it was really great. We paddled from Central Falls Landing to Still Falls Marsh. And it was a great group. We had a great turnout. We worked really closely with the ETC and friends of the Blackstone. Yes, Sick Bay, Blackstone Heritage Corridor, all the different partners. Yeah, so it was a really fun event.
I think every single kayak was rented, so a lot of people who didn't have a kayak at home got on the water for maybe the first time. We're no first timers, but folks that, you know, have never, definitely people's first time in this section of the river, which is always really, really fun. And the Explorer was also full, wasn't it? Yep. So we were pretty much at capacity.
Awesome.
And that time of year wasn't too challenging, it was a little bit challenging, but I think the short distance was good. And it was just really interesting to be present in the march, a lot of good questions. So, it was great.
Yeah, did you get a sense that people, like a lot of people drove in from elsewhere, or were there a lot of folks that were local? Or did you?
Most folks that I chatted with were local, but
Local and never on that part of the river, which was, it's like the perfect.
That's a perfect combo.
That's a perfect
great.
combo, of people
Yeah.
that are there and care, but
Yeah,
don't have the access.
yeah, great.
we got a lot of good feedback. I've had several people tell me afterwards and they're like hitting up and everything. That was so fun, great job, it was really neat. So, yeah. I was gonna mention something else and now I'm thinking of other things. Something else outreach, gosh, my brain, okay, let's keep going. All right, we have a new webpage on Fish Passage, so I'm gonna share my screen. So this is the collapse this is from the last parade that we just had, someone, Ian from Save the Bay made this amazing fish.
We have that fish up in our
Oh.
art gallery right now, it says like uplit, and somebody put like a little like piece of paper that says like what materials he used. He actually made that fish out of foam that he pulled out of like cleanup.
Yeah,
So it's like repurposed trash.
it's awesome. It's so
You
cool.
throw it back in the bay in about 2
So a lot of this language we took from the the application of NOAA, so it
Oh,
was
nice.
incredibly helpful. So we have some just like basic background, we have this little graphic on like, this has been a priority for a really long time. There's information on the CAC, applications to NOAA, they're still pending, we have this new project manager. If you want us to link directly to you, we are happy to, if you don't want us to, it's fine.
Sure, I don't know.
Okay. Thanks, yeah. We have this on the dam, so each of them has like a little drop down and they just tell you like what's kind of really quickly going on with each of these. So this is owned by DEM, the preferred alternative currently is Hydro Channel to a Nature Lake Fishway, Slater, Main Street. And then we have like sold 2025 because we don't know what's going on.
Who do you have as owners, Slater Mill?
Currently under transition management.
Wait, you bought the hydropower?
No, Slater.
Slater.
Oh.
Still Ozma going to, so we thought that was gonna be more accurate for the longer term. And then we have this plan of like, okay, you want more details, like these are the first 2 dams, blah, 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 Sergeant's Trench filled in, cultural value, this is the preferred alternative there, Elizabeth Webbing. I do have letters illustrating their disapproval of the plans to put hydropower here. I don't know if it's too inappropriate to say, we do not anticipate FERC to grant the license, but we continue to monitor the situation. Maybe change that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just get rid of that sentence.
Yep.
I get rid of it.
Okay, great.
You can't trust them.
Yeah.
Honestly. Cannot trust her.
Valley Falls, we don't have a lot here, we just say if fish get here, it will trigger fish passage requirements under their license.
Yeah.
Valley Falls, this is where we wanna get to, rich wildlife, that'll spawn. And then we have some info on CAC, there's a link to our public CAC drive so that people can look at our notes or our meetings. And we say that we have the following organizations including these groups. We actually don't have MVP in there actually, so we should add MVP, sorry, even though you're funding everything. It's okay. And then we have resources, so this was a presentation that we made on our last collab meeting, that was kind of an overview. These are the slides from that. We have this one pager, I think that you guys have seen. Yeah, that's that one got cut off a little bit, sorry, but so if you want. And then there's this one, which is the Bryce Dubois from the University of New Haven's student worked on exploring these sort of benefits of fish passage on the Blackstone, and this is what she came up with. So she took some of the information from the NOAA grant of like what would be involved with, or how many fish would come back if we are successful here, and then she has examples of other successful projects and some ecosystem services, cultural connection, traditional access to fishing grounds. And then these other projects, economic revitalization, what are other projects that this sort of, these projects talked about these benefits kind of thing. So you would imagine that we would also get some of these benefits. So, yeah. So we are very open to feedback. If you want to look at it in your own time and let us know what other updates you would want to see. Or I can kind of poke through now if you want.
I'm still really unclear about the hydro sale. What happened?
Main Street,
Yeah,
I think it's just a different owner operator, but it's still hydro.
okay, so it went up for sale and because the last I heard, they didn't wanna sell it at all. And then there might have been some conversations with DEM about buying out the hydro. Was that ever?
This was just, yeah, but this all happened, I mean, I don't, it might have been like an acquisition or something, the whole
Okay.
parent company just changed. I don't-
Oh, all right,
Yeah.
it's just a parent company thing, cause I know Wendy's gonna ask me about this, so I need to know.
Because she knows, yeah, I mean, yeah,
I need to know what happened, so I can tell her.
no, I don't, I mean, it's
There was
my
no
impression.
opportunity for us
No,
to
it's
move
not like
in
it
and
went
buy
on the
it.
market or
Okay.
anything.
I think how it affects us is simply their contact changed.
It wasn't,
Okay.
they didn't put a for sale sign.
Yeah,
Fair. Okay.
No, it
Yeah, I
could,
hadn't heard.
no, that's
This
a
is the first I've
good
heard of it.
question, but yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, the website looks awesome.
Yeah, let's.
I'm gonna make sure we link to yours on our pages, because I just looked at Google. Yours comes up as fifth on the hit list, but, and we have two before that, so I think
Okay.
ours, we wanna link out to current information with the collab and with DEM, so we'll do that. Yep,
you did link to it on your newsletter, so thank you for that.
yeah, the newsletter, but
Could you scroll down to purpose?
Purpose.
I think there's the first paragraph.
Thank you. Sorry,
The first paragraph is purpose, wasn't it?
this part? Oh, sorry, yeah,
Oh,
history
yeah.
and purpose, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah,
What's on your brain?
well, I think about my youngest granddaughter who's 5. And she's in the why stage. Why stage? You say something,
Never.
Why?
ends.
and you say something, why? You try to answer that.
To infinity.
Why? I got 5 whys on me, and that's done, I'm done. You go see your mother. Wow. So the why, the project and the why, to me, is extremely important to really get that in. And from a resource manager's perspective, you know, the relationship of, we've talked about this so much, the relationship, and further down, I think you bring it out with the one pager and with the other stuff. But the
Yes.
first paragraph, a lot of people won't get past page 3. So I'm just wondering if,
We need a really blunt first sentence that says why.
well,
and
I mean,
why.
this is all about ecological services. This is, you know, yes, it's important, culturally, historically, but there is an ecological service component in there, why we're doing this. What does this mean in terms of restoring populations of forage to enhance sustainable populations of important commercial and recreational fish?
Yeah, so like you said, we have that in
It
the,
is further down.
we have it here and we have it in the presentation, but you're right, when I present this, I
You
say
talk
it,
about it,
I say it differently than what we wrote it,
yeah.
so maybe we can add some of that.
It's small,
Yeah.
you've got everything in there, it's just that it's the first paragraph that,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, we can,
Gets them.
no, that's a good point, we can.
I also agree, but I would add too that I would add the financial benefits of doing this to the state's aquaculture economy. Is that the correct phrase?
So that's where I need DEM's
Thanks for
help.
bringing that up, Eric, because if you look it up, you'll find that the annual commercial value of recreational and commercial fishing in Rhode Island, it hits anywhere between $400 and $600 million per year.
Yep, yeah, it's amazing, and it'll only get better once this happens, so
Right, and this contributes to that, supports it.
directly. Yeah. Always show people how it helps them financially.
I would love to have more on the economic benefits of the project for sure, and that's sort of where Bryce's student had come in and started to help out there, but we don't have that sort of bigger deep dive of what would the financial benefits be of this project. I would love to have that one day. I don't know.
Jason may have, Jason's staff,
Yeah.
or maybe you.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'm sure we put some statistics in the grant proposal. If you've been using those, you probably saw them and maybe you're talking about something more specific, but there should be a blurb in there, like
Yeah,
this
maybe I
will
can find
support the, as you know, what John just rattled off, the $2 million fishing and commercial fishing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think talking to Jason and his staff would be great. This might be another way for Senator Whitehouse to help. I know he's always touting that in his annual, conservation meeting about how much money the ocean brings to Rhode Island and how important it is, so might be another source.
I know NBP had done work with URI, and they have this resource on the economic benefits of the bay, and one of them was about fishing, but that's like 10 years old now.
It is old.
So I don't know if that's the one you pulled from, or if we have different numbers. But I'll check what was in the proposal.
Yeah, that's probably.
I think it was that,
Yeah,
which was great. I mean, Umechita did a good job on that one, but
yeah,
it's been a.
I don't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I think recreational fishing numbers get updated pretty often, that'll by somebody. So that's probably better than what we have. But we can take a look at that report and see what it's pulling from, if it's that complex.
Recreational and commercial.
Right.
I mean, there's a bunch of different things too, like we also say in the presentation that this is the largest, one of the largest freshwater wetlands in Rhode Island, which I didn't realize. Valley Falls Marsh, so, bringing like little tidbits like that we have in the presentation, but just highlighting them on the webpage.
Yeah.
That. Great, well, thank you. I wanted to mention, I said it at the beginning, but John Marsland's group, Friends of the Blackstone, also organized a water chestnut pull this afternoon. So after this, we'll pop over there. It's at Central Falls Landing, pulling Valley Falls Marsh. So keep trying to steward that habitat, wait for these fishies to come back. And then the last thing on the agenda is, we've got about 20 minutes left. We can end early as well, but just a preparation of our walk and talk at Slater Mill and Main Street. If there's anything that we want to strategize about before we go, or if we feel like we're ready, they'll have an agenda.
What do you need from Park Service?
I think we're just using the parking lot, right?
No space after for meetings or anything?
I don't think so. I think it's entirely walking.
Okay.
Is that correct?
I don't know, who's coordinating this?
Austin O'Neill? Question mark?
Well,
Me?
certainly they, Fuss and Nail will respond any way you want as far as information.
They proposed the walk and talk, so I assumed that it was on their plate.
Yeah.
Do you want me to have a conversation with Nils?
No, I think that what's appropriate is to have a leader or MC such as Jason preside over the walk and talk. And then all of the partners, the entities, the consultants, the collaborative, the nation, everybody can be part of it, but it would seem to me that that's something that your boss needs to be ready to perform.
Yeah, I know Jason's been going back and forth with the Mills about the workshop, but I'm not exactly sure the complete specifics.
But
I thought they were walking us through more of like, this is what we engineered so far, this is where it will be, putting it into perspective, so we're on the ground and we're connecting those plans to the site.
okay, just Matt, if I could suggest that you have a sit down with Jason, find out what his vision of this is, how he wants to do this, what this is about. Cause I just get like an email here, an email there, and stuff, and I'm trying to follow stuff, and you know,
Can I ask, what you just said sounds reasonable, is that what the committee wants to see at this walk and talk? I mean,
I thought it was proposed by Preston O'Neill that our next meeting is a walk and talk, so
Right.
that they can do this, and I said,
Yeah.
okay, I thought I would.
yeah, if everybody agrees that that's the purpose,
is it still on?
which
I don't see why not.
I think so.
Because we haven't met with PRA.
So they're on this list
Right,
and meeting invitation, it's on our notes. I don't have any, if you tell me I have more responsibility than that, I will take it, if I'm
No,
supposed to
no,
call them every
no,
time,
no,
like,
no,
but I don't know what else to
right,
do there.
I think, yes, there have been some difficulties getting a meeting with them, that's, I feel like that's kind of on its own track right now, and it's, you know, Jason is the one trying to
Sure, yeah,
get something up, and ideally, yes, we would have that conversation before the walk and talk, I think the walk and talk will happen either way, I mean, obviously. That's my understanding of it. I think what you just said is the intention, as I understood it, it's like, yeah, let's make these engineered plans real. I think we'll also talk about the renderings, like, I mean, it would be an opportunity to do that. But it sounds like we need is maybe a rough
agenda.
objective, agenda, and if Jason's the one who is supposed to be emceeing it, that would be helpful for him, like just to say, here's what everybody's hoping to get out of it, and here. I'm not assigning.
I'm just
to you.
wondering who is doing it though,
No,
like,
I think maybe like Matt and myself and Rachel could help to draft something and certainly can put it out for input, but if it would help for us to put a straw man together to kind of.
well, why don't we propose, we have 15 minutes left, why don't we do that right now?
Okay, yeah.
Instead of putting it on your plate for you
Sure.
to, God knows when.
No, it doesn't have to be super
Exactly,
detailed and
just like a
complicated.
5 bullet points. So goal, connect preliminary engineering plans to real life and offer feedback, right? So that's
Yeah,
what we
it's a
said.
chance to ask questions, get clarification, offer feedback.
Offer feedback, ask questions, get clarification, okay. And then in terms of agenda, we park at Slater, 9:30 AM, 67 Roosevelt Ave. And we kind of do I feel like there's like a typical walk that we usually do, which is we start at Slater, we look at where the dam is, we go around and we get to the other side. So we would talk about Main Street, really Main Street first, because that's what you get to. And probably would be nice to go down below Main Street, which is what we don't usually do, and think about what that looks like. Can we do that?
Look at where the portage and stuff would be.
Right,
I believe there's a locked gate.
Yeah, so lock gate, you'd have to drive into the old Apex parking lot.
Or you just get that
go
gate
around to
unlocked.
the back. The
Yeah.
best thing to do is to cross the street, look over the bridge, and just envision from there. Look at the tail race, look at the opposite side, look at the bank, and they can talk about it. Who all is attending this?
the CAC is invited.
Pardon?
The CAC is invited. Again, I've never heard about this before. The last meeting we had,
Okay,
Nils presented, he said, we're gonna do a walk and talk.
all right.
We said, when do we do it? Let's do it July, 2 meetings ago. And that's just where we are.
Was the PRA included in that with the,
Again, they're always on the invitations. And the notes and everything.
Okay.
I don't know what separate conversations have been.
Oh, wait, if we ask them to unlock
Was
the
this
gate, then they'll
intended to
know we're gonna
be-
be.
That's what I was wondering.
in preparation of meeting with PRA?
I was hoping that I think it was our hope initially that we would have the meeting with PRA well before this walk and talk, because
Right.
we need, as we've been discussing, there's all these portage and issues that need to be discussed and access issues, and so I think the hope was that we would have some of that cleared up.
It's not like we haven't been trying to have this
I know.
meeting. Dean Audette actually knows and has worked with that fellow over there.
Yeah,
Jason has an insight to this. They have been pushing, they have been trying to get this done. And it's not the fault of DEM or reluctance on DEM's part or
Right.
follow through.
we've also, there has been some back and forth, like, Fuss and O'Neill put together a really hefty technical report,
Oh, Jesus.
which is like, it's complete, but we've kind of been saying, we need this condensed into something that we can bring into a meeting, give them like the day before, so we can look at, that is very clear about what we are asking for and graphically represents that, like, we need very simple plans, and like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, here's where we need permanent access, here's where we need
We
temporary
don't have that
access.
memo.
I think the last email from Dean acknowledged that the report was too big and that they were gonna boil it down. So he gave us a list of like, here are the elements that are gonna be in that boil down, like, memo.
So putting on my like facilitator hat of being a jerk for a second. This has been months. I know that DEM has needed this to provide a PRA, and if we're saying PRA is not doing their part because DEM's not asking them to do their part, because Fuss and O'Neill is not providing this memo that we've been asking for months, we really, really, really need them to prioritize this. I love Dean, I love Nils, as human beings, they are great. I'm incredibly disappointed with what I at least perceive as a lack of forward progress on this project. Maybe I'm entirely wrong and I'm just not hearing what's going on, but that is a very discrete deliverable that is really important and has been on pause for a long time. Tell me if I'm wrong.
In my kind of a bit outside, having stepped away a bit, perception of this, like, I think since Dean has kind of stepped back in, this has been moved to the top of the list.
It
Like,
is.
I don't think, for whatever reason, Nils might have been aware that this was so important to this meeting. And I think in his mind, maybe, I'm not trying to speculate, I am speculating, but like,
Right.
that chunky technical report had all the information
Right,
in there,
yeah.
but we're all like, we can't just bring this
Yeah.
to a conversation, like, it's not very clear from this what it is that we are asking for. And, so, like I said, where we are right now, from what I've seen in emails, is that Dean is very aware of what we need, and they're working on producing that now.
I've
but-
seen it change since Dean has
Yes.
stepped up and said, all right, I'm gonna be a part of this. And that's a good thing, because he's worked with PRA before, and they've had some involvement with some of the development downstream across from the
Tidewater's.
field, and so I think we're in a good place. He did take a couple weeks off, so some personal leave. He's back, and I trust him to deliver.
So I think we have to be realistic that it's mid-June, got a month until, right, the walk and talk.
This has been on our calendar for another 2 months though.
Right, and so if we can, I don't know what's gonna happen with the meeting with the city, the PRA in the meantime, but
Is that scheduled?
it is not. No, so, again, it's an issue.
This is like the CAC's main role is like trying to hold ourselves accountable of all these like, poop, we have 4 balls in the air, which one do we go chase? I'm not putting that on you.
No,
I'm just saying.
I hear you,
I know, I know.
What's the time pressure on the walk and talk? Can we, I guess in some way it's a time deadline to try to have
It
that
doesn't
meeting with
have to
PRA, but
happen
I mean,
on the 17th of July. It can be delayed if it needs to be delayed.
is Fuss and O'Neill waiting for that to like move forward with, like, say, the renderings or anything like that?
I don't
Is-
think so,
Okay.
yeah.
But in my own experience, the easiest way to get the tenant to show up to something is to have it in their backyard.
And to
Okay.
say, can you please unlock the gate?
Yeah.
We require your direct assistance.
Yeah, Mike Cassidy has shown up to
Mhm.
things in person when he's been invited before, so. I'm
Is
sure-
he still involved?
Yeah,
To some extent.
he's a contractor
Yeah.
for the city of Pawtucket I believe he is a contractor for the city of Pawtucket and also serves
Okay,
a role in PRA, not as a board member, but it's just
But I think his emails bounced out.
really, that'd be new.
Let me,
So maybe we just need to to Jason and us and Neil, like, look, if it's not looking like we're gonna get this meeting, which I hate to say that, I mean, we still should try to get the meeting with the city.
okay, why don't I draft a memo or an email
Yeah,
and push my contractor as well as my former intern, Jason,
please forget that. I love it.
To move on this.
Yeah.
We met, we talked about this, it's a priority, please don't disappoint us.
It's not, it is holding up the works, so,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, like, it really needs to happen. And so I think another question is, if we can't make it happen, do we still have this walk and talk, and if so, what's
Right.
the purpose, you know, what are we gonna try to
Yeah.
accomplish?
I mean, I think there's an opportunity to maybe. I was gonna say there's an opportunity to pivot and say, well, it's less about PRA, more about like, what do we want to access, but hopefully we'll
We're
determine
gonna
that,
do that right this afternoon.
yeah, this
Yeah.
afternoon, and so we won't be it for that. Unless we have considered that we're like, oh, we really should talk about these three things, in which case,
I feel like we had a similar walk and talk with PRA last summer.
Yep.
And it's extremely productive.
it was.
And I think it would be totally reasonable to have another one, but it's essential that we have either members of the city of Pawtucket or PRA, preferably both, there.
Can I ask, you guys are going out there today? Yep. What in your mind would be like a feasible mechanism for getting your thoughts to us before, like, if, like, maybe that's what we should do, like, have another. I mean, the DEM and the city and Fuss O'Neill are still gonna have to sit down and like lay out technically but maybe it's helpful to also do that in the field. But I think we need to know what you were thinking
Yeah.
before then, so but
Yeah.
we'll have an intervening CAC meeting.
I think we can communicate via email with photos
14.
and markups and stuff.
We have a
14
14
on the
meeting, but
10th.
I can just follow up with you sooner than that, like after we meet today.
Okay, just like,
This week.
okay, so we went out there,
Yeah, this is what we're
here's
saying,
where heads are at.
I can give you a good
Okay.
one.
I think that's a good idea, and then we have to communicate all of that to Fuss O'Neill, just to say.
And it might be that we believe we made a decision, do you agree with us? Or it might be, we have a lot of questions and this is what we still need to discuss, I don't know yet. But I would agree with Kate that if we can push and say specific reminder of, hey, this is happening, it's in your backyard, can you attend, / I think, can you open the gate for us is a really clear, discreet
Yeah, we
ask
gotta
that
be there.
even that would make them come, even if we haven't had a conversation before that. I think the conversations that we had in the field last time were helpful, and I think we all learned new things at that time. So even if it's not the specific of, we need, all of these different easements or whatever, it would still be worthwhile to have it.
And showing them that we're still here a year later, we're still serious, we're pursuing funding.
It's a really good one. Okay. So DEM will ask PRA if they can open the gate for us.
Yeah, I mean, we have, so I think John or I think TNC needs to let Fuss O'Neill know what's going on. So it's like, first of all, we've got this portage question and we may have some suggested changes and like, how's that gonna work?
Yep.
And then, with that in mind, that's gonna impact what we're asking the city for. So like, where's the memo at and
Yeah.
can we add this information to it? And then I think we need to talk about the walk and talk. So like, with all of this in mind, do we wanna just invite the city to this walk and talk? Whether or not we're having a sit down meeting with them beforehand at City Hall And we can extend that invitation and request to open the gate so that.
Having the walk and talk, do we need to invite the city at this point in time, or should we save that for,
Well,
The city of the PRA.
oh,
I think,
well,
Why not
I
invite-
think of them as the one and the same, but I guess, okay, I'm sorry.
They're supposed to be completely separate.
Yeah. Okay.
They just happen to be made up of the same people.
yeah,
so
but they're different entities.
either way, it sounds like folks feel there's value to getting PRA out on the site again.
Yes.
So whether that happens,
Okay,
whether we as a committee, we go out there to just all get on the same page and figure out like, hey, here's the
see
what
how
we're asking.
strong Dean's relationship is with PRA, and I'll have him
Yeah.
invite PRA
I mean, he initially was
and
kind of
open the
like,
gate.
Jason, you invite them, I don't know, I was my impression that, but,
Oh,
Jason's
so
not-
okay, so it's changed, and he does not have the,
well, I think there's a new person, right?
but he worked with them.
I think he worked with a new person, he was saying.
Eric P. or whatever.
His own,
Yeah, I think Jason.
Jason.
All right.
So Boston O'Neill is going to follow up to invite PRA to pass it on North Gate. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm gonna put this out to both
Great.
Jason and Dean.
Okay.
You gotta help us. We're ready.
Yeah, if you could probably.
We're working. We're waiting.
So with our 2 minutes left, theoretically, if we get the gate open, our agenda is meet at Slater Mill, walk to Main Street, look over the bridge, but then walk down to the gate and actually see where we would potentially put the boats back in. Then we go up to Slater, we talk about portage considerations there. And depending on what we see today, maybe we also walk up to the city of Pawtucket property and look at that wall.
And I'll say it again, you really don't need to go through the gate and walk down. You can stand on the opposite side
But
of the
I've done
street.
that and I feel like I don't have a good sense of it.
Okay.
I feel like I need to just
Yeah.
be in the bank. Am I
No,
new in there?
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so agenda is Slater parking, Main Street overlook, Main Street bank. River left, fish passage. Green space. Don't know what I mean.
Yep.
Potentially walk up to the city of Pawtucket or city hall. Yeah, that is our, then,
And yeah, if there's a need for an after action meeting or anything like that, just have whoever is running this, let me know, so I can have the room set up.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think, is that something of interest? I mean, I assume that we don't have a ton of time. In theory,
I'm just
it's
throwing it out there.
scheduled 9:30 to 11, right? I don't know, so.
Another question, just however this winds up happening and whoever's coming, it sounds like we would want Boston to bring like
Yeah, if they
hard
could
copy,
bring in the hard copies of large ones,
the latest version. That would make it work.
whatever this one is.
So I would say
2
like,
feet by
maybe
3
like
feet,
if it's
yeah.
raining, we might put up inside, but
Okay,
like,
give me the big one,
Give me the big one.
and I can do the
Okay,
highlight.
so a large copy of the site plan.
Full size.
Full size, yeah, that's what it is, it's full size. I don't remember, I just remember with the rolled up ones, not the full thing.
thank you.
Okay, great, well, thank you, everybody, that is our time. So to recap our to-dos quickly. Whoever's able to after this will pop over to City Hall and the other Pawtucket redevelopment agency site to think about put-in. Are we following up with Senator Whitehouse's office to invite Lisa to attend that walk and talk, this is an FYI?
Let's figure out what we're doing first, maybe.
And then, John O'Brien is gonna follow up with Boston O'Neill, tell them the portage change, but pending what exactly it is. And then Fussin O'Neill is going to provide that checklist bullet point map of where DEM needs temporary permanent access from PRA. And Fussin O'Neill is also going to follow up directly with PRA to ask for them to open the gate and to attend the webinar. Were there other to-dos that I missed? Oh, and the collab is gonna change our website based on our conversation. Good?
Good.
All right, thanks all.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. July 17th. See you next time.
So what's up between?
So I talked to Brian,